Hello, my name is Benjamin Octopus, and I approve this message. There are lots of reasons why I love the video game Persona 5 Royale so much. Yes, the game's actual title is called Royal. I'm choosing to call it Royale. Life is more fun that way. So I'm a huge fan of Persona 5 Royale. And on reflection, I believe a large part of why I enjoy it so much is that it is several other games which I already enjoy, woven into one. Fair warning, this video essay is replete with spoilers, so if you hear the name of an unplayed game and you wish to preserve your innocence of it, feel free to skip to a different chapter in the video. If you're avoiding spoilers for all of the compared games, or for Persona 5 Royale itself, then you must close this video and go do something else with your life. Is that fair? We square? We're all good? Okay, cool. So, Persona 5 Royale is other games that I love. Let's get into it. Persona 5 Royale is Monster Prom. I mean, look at it like this. Your goal is to win the attentions and affections of fashionable, attractive, young troublemakers, which you do by spending quality time with them, selecting favorable lines of dialogue, giving them significant items, which can sometimes be pretty costly in the game's economy, and optimizing a spread of social stats. Your stats can be managed and improved at various locations, including a theater, a gym, a library, the bathroom, a place with a lot of hard drugs, and, most ironically of all, actually increasing your intelligence in class, at the school, which is the game's primary setting. Mind-blowing. Your friends and potential partners are visually unique, morally questionable, temperamentally diverse, young adults. There's a hot-headed bad boy with matching reputation who still wants to do right by his family, a varsity jacket-wearing sweetie who may not be a genius, but who has a heart of gold, loves a good snack, and contends with mean athletes at school. An eccentric artist who doesn't care if you get his artwork, and whose backstory can be summarized as old man preys on innocent people. A charming, pink-colored heiress with an unquestionably despicable dad. A bright young woman with a dissatisfying relationship with her sister, who's trying to make the best of life after her father's vehicular tragedy. A cat person. A dapper, dashing fellow who invites himself everywhere he's not wanted and is clearly up to no good. A lithe, long-haired lady with dangerous secrets and unusual dietary habits. And a quirky little miss who emerged from her old toxic way of life to better connect with her friends and proudly fangirl over many franchises. Not to be confused with the socially awkward, naturally silly, incredibly intelligent character who rocks an artificial face, is terminally online, and is simultaneously all-powerful and an innocent baby who must be preserved at all costs. Outside of your circle of chums and love interests, there's plenty of other memorable NPCs, such as the jacked PE teacher, who's very invested in his students, the cold-blooded weapons expert with no time for your bullshit, the suave older man who plays aloof but really wants your allegiance, the female character who is blatantly and unapologetically taking advantage of others, the aromantic gamer whose motto is "get smoked," the confident one whose health regimen will probably kill you, the narc, and that one classmate of yours with poor online etiquette, an overinflated sense of self-importance, and a tendency to make unrealistic requests of the player character. Oh, and the unprofessional mental health professional. There's also a group of young ladies who are individuals but generally get treated as a single person, and this one guy with an unsettling knowledge of the meta-narrative who you can actually go meet up with and talk to, but who sort of exists outside of the plot. Like, he's always there, he's always been there, he'll always be there, but he doesn't really do anything, usually. And that somehow doesn't make it better. It makes it worse. And there you are at the center of it all, fraternizing and schmoozing with grotesque and alluring characters inspired by real-life cultures from all over the world. trying desperately to appeal to your crush, stay on everyone's good sides, and carefully cultivate these secret plot arcs that you've uncovered, all while trying to relish your magical youth in a world where the days just seem to go by so fast. When the credits roll, you'll be left wishing you could go back and take care of all of your unfinished business. You'll console yourself by re-listening to the soundtrack, which is fire and an entire mood, and ultimately replay the game while holding hands with the walkthrough of your choice. And that's good and true, yes. But also, Persona 5 Royale is Pokémon. I mean, face it. Your goal is to acquire, strengthen, and fight with an incredible selection of visually unique, morally questionable, temperamentally diverse monsters that are designed after real-life cultural references from around the world. The monsters can either be acquired in the wild after beating them into submission, created with a somewhat adult process using the union of two monsters you already own, or they can even be purchased with cash. There's a monster collection database whose entries you're encouraged to fill, but of course they don't expect you to acquire every single last one of them on your first playthrough. Naturally, the game gives you a free monster to start off with, and you'll want to bring it with you for your entire journey. And maybe you will, but you will inevitably grow attached to other ones that are simply and unignorably more powerful. The sheer number of monsters might seem overwhelming, but you'll recognize and relate to a lot of them, since the game draws upon some really fundamental archetypes, including mythological creatures, heavenly hosts and demonic entities, members of the ruling class, slimes, pop culture references, bodybuilders with Polymelia, Rule 34 fodder, weird little floating dudes, aggressive reminders of your own mortality, and of course, mascots. You can train your monsters, teach them new moves, select their different passive traits and abilities, leave them under supervision to get stronger while you're away, and even set them free to make room for new ones. Although at first it does feel uncomfortable when you do this, but you'll grow numb to it eventually. Not everybody in the game has a monster, but you'll notice that you weirdly seem to have way more monsters with you at any given time than anybody else. Except for the endgame. Sometimes monsters will prove useful in areas outside in combat, but it's clear that their intended use is for fighting. When combat comes around, you use your monsters to fight other monsters. You call out your monster's name, switch between them during combat, and use them to make magical attacks. Specifically, strategizing their attacks against your foe's weaknesses using a complicated system of multicolored damage types and corresponding status effects. You can also use different kinds of items during combat, although scrolling through long inventory lists in the heat of battle feels really underwhelming compared to the thrill of exercising your bond with the monsters that you adore. Monsters that are beyond your game progress won't join your party, but you'll get by pretty well as long as you round out your team with all of those different damage types. And while there definitely is a real-world society of people who pride themselves on refining and optimizing their monsters in every possible detail, the base game can still be beaten using the time-honored tradition of good old-fashioned grinding until all of your monsters are stupidly overleveled for all of the bosses. Well, most of the bosses. There's that one, not even a final boss, that's way too hard, but not in the overpowered sense. It's more like that you can get really blindsided by it if you didn't prepare for it specifically in advance. And it really, truly tests your strategizing abilities so much more intensely than you'd expect for that point in the game. It's nuts. Given how unique and memorable the monsters are, you may find yourself tempted later in life to go back and replay the game. Just don't be too hard on yourself when you ultimately end up prioritizing and picking the exact same monsters that you chose the last time. And the time before that. Fairly obvious. However, furthermore, Persona 5 Royale is Final Fantasy VII. Hear me out. Your goal is to defeat an all-powerful evil by accruing a team of visually unique, morally questionable, temperamentally diverse heroes, including a tough grouch with family issues, a sexy sweetheart who's been through some shit, a level-headed parent friend who gets dunked on by the plot, a tech master who lacks social graces, a mellow pretty boy who can easily make his teammates uncomfortable, a really nice ally who's associated with an extremely sketchy business conglomerate, a dishonest acrobat who you have to fight before she'll properly join your team, a smooth-talking psychopath who's only in your party as part of a limited plot arc before he fucks you over later, and a token animal character who makes going places as a team kind of weird, but in the long run sort of proves more crucial to the plot than you do, mostly because of his association with an eccentric and omniscient old man with exaggerated facial features. You, of course, are the blade-wielding, semi-amnesiac hero with untamable hair and the demeanor of a leader despite getting left in the dust when it comes to lines of dialogue. You do get a few zingers here and there, but most importantly, you look breathtaking in drag. You and your party explore the world, fight random and... Okay. The Joker and drag is from the Persona 5 rhythm game, Dancing in Starlight, not actually from Persona 5 Royale. You can't get that costume in that game. But it still counts. I mean, come on. 10s across the board. You and your party explore the world, fight random encounters, open treasure chests, level up, unlock unique battle moves, which are as dazzling as they are infrequently available, stumble across mysteries and conspiracies, ride in very unique vehicles, and always manage to find stronger weapons and armor as the game progresses, although the accessory items that you find can be pretty hit or miss by comparison. And you do technically have combat stats, but you'll mostly be paying attention to your magic bar and your health bar. Along the way, there's sports mini-games, miscellaneous monsters, battle themes which are way overplayed but somehow still slap after every fight, and numerous side stories for your party members, although yours takes priority in the long run. Oh, and sometimes you and your party members can summon gods, monsters, and mythological creatures to fight for you, so that's pretty nice. But no matter what you do, where you go, who you get to know, or which waifu or homie you take on a Ferris wheel date, you must ultimately prepare yourselves for the greatest challenges of all. A sea of uncaring, unhelpful, undereducated masses whose only contribution to your quest comes as an en masse 11th hour deus ex machina, and privileged male assholes who are so astronomically entitled that they'll sacrifice the world to enforce their superiority. The socioeconomic assholes are awful, of course, but they will get superseded by the dogmatic, philosophical assholes. And heaven help you if they justify their behavior because of a single tragedy involving a female person from their past. As the years go by, you will always think fondly of this game, one which is so outstanding that, for many people, its greatness eliminates the need to experiment with any other titles in its franchise, even though we all really should. But I've kept you waiting long enough. Last, certainly not least, Persona 5 Royale is Psychonauts. Let me break it down for you. Your goal is to develop your psyche-themed supernatural powers by exploring the extra-dimensional realms based on other people's minds, navigating their perceptions of reality, uncovering their scandalous secrets, and fighting violent embodiments of their twisted beliefs and desires. There's also an area representing the collective unconscious of all people, but design-wise it pales in comparison to the levels based on individual persons. You learn about and practice your powers as part of a group of visually unique, morally questionable, temperamentally diverse children, all of whom have supernatural powers, but none of which compare to yours, either in might or in versatility. The adults are all odd, sus, or a meaty combination of both. But even the well-meaning ones are still haunted by needless guilt for how they've failed children in the past. Some of them, lethal failures. And ultimately they do show up to help, but only in supporting roles, since it's the legal minors who are most qualified to save the day. Your peers include brave fighters, chipper cuties, bossy go-getters, loners with iconic headwear, a foreign exchange student, oddballs who would fit in with a suicide cult, a BFF with crippling self-confidence problems, the daughter of the head of a major organization, and a guy who woke up one morning with an infuriating hairdo and who decided that his life's purpose was to be your ultimate rival, certain to thwart you at any and every opportunity, and he's inherently a creep, but the game shoehorns you into being nice to him? I could go on describing the other young characters, but we can lump a lot of them into one category as mean children who are rude to you because you're the new kid and tribalism is a bitch. As the hero, you are young, charismatic, and way more acrobatic than anybody would have expected. You're trying to put your painful past behind you, although most of it was just a really big misunderstanding, and you do technically have parents, but for the majority of the story, they're just not involved. Your eyewear makes you distinct and stylish, so much so that you look a little weird without it, though still cute. Your protein-loving mentor has some disconcerting memory problems, but with the exception of one little existential crisis, they've got your back no matter what. And that's not just a metaphor, you're basically always carrying them with you on your person. Inside of others' minds, you jump, balance, swing, slide, and sprint through multicolored platform worlds with spot-on background music, mostly, collecting various items which represent the thinker's inner personality, and ultimately, after the minor formality of a boss fight, you can alter their way of thinking, a power which seems wildly irresponsible in the hands of children, but luckily, you are a pure-of-heart protagonist. And besides, for most of the people whose minds you invade, your enforced paradigm shifts are the only thing stopping them from being, at best, an unhinged mess, and at worst, a worldwide threat to society. When you get to the end, you'll feel that your life has been enriched by the experience the game has been, a collection of sensations and memories at once emotionally powerful and aesthetically appealing. It will feel strange then, and unfair, when you go out into the real world and discover that despite the level of quality and critical acclaim, it still feels like nobody else even knows that this game exists. Hey, guess what? It's the end of the video essay. I am still Benjamin Octopus, and for those of you who are watching and or listening, I thank you for your time and attention. Mwah!